Today, my guest is our SEO expert, our favorite SEO expert, Paul Lee. I really enjoyed the discussion about Bigfoot we had before we turned on the mics and started rolling today. Can't wait to dig into that. So just for the record, Paul is not a believer in Bigfoot.
And Peter, what would your status on this? He's a believer. He's a believer.
I'm a believer.
Social distancing champion.
Yes.
Hide and seek champion of the world.
Bigfoot.
My goodness.
AKA Yeti. But we'll save that conversation for a different day. Today, we're going to talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and SEO. Where next? What is happening between AI? Obviously, we're all hearing about AI, right?
Yeah. And kind of came out of nowhere. People they've always talked about AI since for 50 years probably. It's been it's concept that people have been thinking about, and they've been developing things towards it. But most of the efforts were pretty lame, pathetic, whatever, until this year, in the last year, and OpenAI came out with ChatGPT and kind of set the world on fire with this thing. Like, this is getting kind of close. This actually is usable and interesting and helpful, and so maybe AI is the way that where it's going. And of course, that shook up the world. Meta, Facebook, tried to put out a chat bot, which they've obviously been developing, but isn't ready for prime time yet. And Microsoft has one, Bing chat bot, which is also somewhat unhinged. And so Google's put out Bard even. So AI is really like taking over in the sense of, it's taking over at least a mind share. People are talking about it a lot. And one of the first things I saw when ChatGPT came out is somebody tweeted, SEO is dead. And
interesting. So let's back up just 1 second here. So when we talk about ChatGPT, I did a whole video recording of this. I have an article that I wrote and with a video recording of this. But just to be clear about what ChatGPT 4 and AI and what we're discussing today is called generative AI, where we're giving the AI, the computer, the software, a prompt, and then it's spitting back a response based on the question that we asked. Generally, that's the form that you would ask. It's a question you'd ask, and then it will come back with an answer. So that's sort of the premise of what we're talking about today with respect to AI.
Yes, absolutely. So the quality of what AI generates is very much dependent on that prompt. It's interesting. People have some people. The first thing they do when they see something like ChatGPT or something is they try to break it. They try to trick it, or give it something that it won't understand, or try to skirt its rules. Other people look to it to explore and plumb its biases and political leanings because of how it's been trained or who programmed it or whatever. And I'll leave that to other people. I think those are interesting questions, I suppose. I mean, I'll right up there with like, should we even be doing this at all, or is that going to cause the extinction of humankind?
Paul, I haven't had enough coffee.
No,
we're going to stick to search engine optimization and AI.
Exactly.
And how do they work? Are they compatible? Or are you out of business because AI is going to take over your job? Yeah.
So that was the instead of looking to figure out how to break it or to look to figure out why it says what it says, my first thought was, how can we use this? I mean, that's the first thought. And I think that's for a lot of business people, that's the first thought they're going to have is, how can we use this? And is it any good? So I've looked at it. I've played around with it. I've used it for some projects. And I was initially somewhat skeptical in terms of, I thought Google was going to probably penalize people for using it. But Google recently has come out and said that there is no penalty for using AI-generated text, as long, this is the big caveat, as long as it's helpful. And that's the same for human-generated content. As long as the content is helpful, Google doesn't mind, because if it's sort of wasting space and just words for the sake of words, if it's incorrect information, those sorts of things, then it's not going to be helping your content. But Google says, as long as it's helpful, absolutely fair game. So that was like, okay, let's test this thing out and see what it does. And my big question was, is it going to put me out of business? I don't think it will put me out of business. No. I think it's useful. It's massively useful. I think it's very intriguing, and I think it will probably streamline some parts of the job, especially content creation. But it has to be babysat. Like you have to watch it.
So your conclusion so far is that it's good at a couple things. What are those specific things? So one is content, but are you going to actually let it write the whole content? Or are you going to use it for a part of the process? Or where are you seeing it most useful right now?
Right now, I've used it. I have tried to have it write something completely. I find that it writes pretty generic kind of text, and it's not that great. So what I've found works much better is to say, ask it a question like, I need 10 topics about roofing that people search for and are asking for questions about. I need each of one of them. I need 10 of them, and I need each one to start with a gerund, like finding a roofer, inspecting your roof. The ings, gerunds are ings. So give me 10 of those. Boom. It gives me 10 topics. Now I might say, okay, I like topic number 3. What are 4 subtopics underneath that in the form of questions that people might have? So I use that to organize my own writing. Now that's in the writing process. You can even start earlier than that. It does help. It's super helpful in initial research, especially if you don't know much about a topic. So, somebody needed an article very quickly. It's not somebody we usually write articles for, and so we were just like coming up to speed very fast. And so I just put in what are the 4 biggest questions about such and such, and boom, it gave me the 4 biggest questions. And how might other people answer those questions? Boom, I got the answers for those things. So now I still had to run it past the people who we were writing for and make sure that this was right, because I don't know that area all that well. And one thing I have found is that AI, this goes into the category of what doesn't do well, AI can be extremely confidently wrong. It can be like, This is exactly what it is. And you say, actually, I know 100% that that's not it. And it goes, oh, I'm sorry. It's not. You're right. It's not. But if you didn't question, you wouldn't know.
Well, actually, and one of the features of at least OpenAI's ChatGPT is that you rate the response.
Yes.
So you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Yes.
And then it says, what did you like about it? What was wrong with it? What could be better? Mm-hmm. So it's using that as part of its AI model to get better and better. So in theory, if people actually take the time to give a little bit of a true answer as to what was wrong with it, over time, the AI gets smarter and smarter, which is one of the core features of these models.
Exactly. And ultimately, it's trained on material it finds on the internet, which is not necessarily always 100% accurate, as you know.
What? What?
I think there may be occasional pages out there every once in a while where somebody publishes something which is total and absolute crap. So it has been fed.
Speaking of Bigfoot.
Bigfoot again. Yeah. After this, you need to ask ChatGPT what it thinks about if it believes in Bigfoot or not.
Is Bigfoot real?
Is Bigfoot real? I'm gonna be interested in that question, and then after that, ask it the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, and see if the answer is 42. So it doesn't. AI can be very confidently wrong. So you have to double check the work. You have to babysit it a little bit, but it's massively helpful in terms of generating lots of ideas. In terms of coming up with subtopics, in terms of coming up with, here's a description for a page I wrote. Give me 5 other variations of that description, and I pick one that I like better.
Well, and that's one thing that I've used it for. That's probably the primary use I've used it for with respect to the work we do in marketing, is using it to write some headline copy. Mm-hmm. So I need 10, 30 character headlines for, going back to your roofing example, for a residential roofing company, for homeowners. So specifically stating Google Ads. So the more specific you can be about your prompt or your question, the better the answers are. And I've used, I asked for 10, 3 of them were good. The other, 7 were just like blah. But the other thing I've done with it is use it to rewrite copy that I already wrote or that we already wrote. So we've actually gone on to our website, taken a block of text and say, summarize this, or taking it and say, rewrite this, just rewrite this, and it'll just rewrite.
Yeah. And of course, you still need to edit that or read it
Oh, yeah.
because it can make mistakes. And there are things. There are other tools besides. We don't want to boil AI down to just ChatGPT. There are things like Quillbot and Jasper and other things that are out there that all have different capabilities. Quillbot specializes in rewriting and doing exactly what you just said, and can do things like, I've written this 500-page article blog. Can you make it rewrite it in a more expansive way, or in a friendlier way, or in a simpler way for us, an easier reading?
Change the tone,
and it's quite good at that. So those are kinds of the things, but we're not asking it to write from scratch that much. And even if you do ask it to write, like you said, the quality of the prompt matters a lot. So when you say, don't just say write an article about roofing. You need to say, come up with some topics. Here's a topic. Write at least 1,000 words. I want at least 5 points. Each point must be persuasive. Use as many transitional phrases as possible. Avoid passive voice sentence construction, etc. So you're giving it lots of guardrails, and even then, it often doesn't stick to the word count. It doesn't do exactly what you say, but it tries. And so, that's a super helpful thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I think what will end up happening is there will be sort of a hybrid solution between content writers and AI. So they will use it for idea generation. For I've written this headline, but I would like 6 other variations, and I could pick a slightly better one, or maybe mine's the best one. And so they're using it to more quickly iterate through possible different ideas and things. But it's never going to replace a human reading it. And then that's just for content. We're talking also, SEO is far more than just content. So pulling together all the threads of links and headlines and on-page stuff that's behind the scenes stuff and page optimization things and speed optimization and all that stuff, that isn't getting replaced by AI. So content ideas, things that you give it explicit instructions and it say, go do that. Don't be creative. That you're not asking the AI to be creative. Like, read an AI poem. AI generated poems are terrible. Like they can't. They just don't think creatively like we do. But if you ask it for very, very specific things, and then it will follow those instructions, and it does it quite well.
Got it. So one of the things that I've found it most useful for is just generating prompts to get me started. So or not generating prompts, but I will feed it a prompt, just a seed of an idea. And then it will, like, I'll say, give me 5 thoughts on this topic. And and a lot of times what I was thinking but wasn't able to actually put down on the page will pop up. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. So I'll grab one of those. So I find it very helpful, and just in terms of helping the creative process.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a great way of, it's sort of like bouncing ideas off a friend or sitting down having a brainstorming session, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And because it's got this massive library of information, and it's got, basically an endless vocabulary, it can come up with all sorts of slightly different phrasing and things that make you go, ooh, yes, I like that better. I'm going to grab that. I saw another cool thing that it does. I did not know this until I just today actually learned this. You can ask it to output things in formats other than things like paragraph and all that stuff. So you can say things like, here's a list of 10 things about roofing. Categorize them into things that you need to know before you do it, and things you need to know after you buy it, whatever, and output the results in a table. It will make a table that shows which things are from before the sales process to after the sales process. It will put out a table. You can say put out in the form of an outline. You can. Then this is the coolest one. I mean, I'm not even sure when I'll use this, but you can. I had a client that needed to exclude some files from Google through their robots.txt file, which is a file on the web server that search engines look at to see where they're allowed to go and where they're not. And it's got its own syntax and things that have to be there and whatever. So I saw somebody write the prompt to ChatGPT. I want Google to not be able to access this page, and this page, and I want Yahoo not to be able to access anything. Please write my robots.txt file. And it outputted the robots.txt file for them. There it was.
So it's writing code.
Basically. It's writing code for you. So you tell it what you want, and it generates the code that you need. So I could go to the developer or the guy that's the webmaster for that website, and I could say, here's exactly what you need to put in your robots.txt in order to block out these particular files, rather than saying, hey man, can you go look that up, and here's the things, and he's got to go find the syntax for it and whatever. Instead, I just send him the actual snippet of code.
So you saved an hour or two of work.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know, I don't work with robots.txt every day. I know what it is. I know how to, what it's supposed to do, and I can go figure out the syntax, but it's not something I would do every day. So
you know enough to get it done.
Exactly.
But it's not something that, yeah.
And ChatGPT can say, ChatGPT knows exactly the format that it needs to be in and spits out the code for me. Thank you very much.
So you probably heard about this. They're actually implementing OpenAI into GitHub for code generation. So you can actually use it explicitly for generating code.
I can see that because a lot of times you want to be able to, you can explain what you want to do. If this exists, then do this. But if this other thing happens, then I want to make sure it does. You can explain it, and then if something like that can then turn that into actual code to do that in this language. Oh, actually, I changed my mind. Can you put it out in Perl, or can you put it out in Ruby on Rails, or can you put it out in JavaScript?
Which are different,
all different
computer languages.
And it was just put it out the same logic, but in those languages.
So I've got a novel application of AI that I just ran into 2 days ago. Seth Godin. Mm-hmm. You know who Seth Godin is? Mm-hmm. Seth Godin is probably one of the preeminent authors, writers, marketing books. He's written Permission Marketing was the first book he wrote that I got a hold of. He's prolific. He's very thought-provoking, he's like the guru of marketing, of modern marketing, I should say. And he took 5 million words of his own work and used that as a library that a chat is based on. You can ask it questions. And I did that. Mm-hmm. So I said to Seth, basically, it's like talking to Seth, based on 5 million of the words. The guy's prolific author. So let me look it up here, and I'll tell you what I asked it and what we came back with. Okay, so here it is. Seth. So the first thing I said is, what are 3 things good marketers should consider when planning an ad campaign? Very simple prompt. Mm-hmm. And it came back with, first of all, who are you trying to reach? If the answer is everyone, start over. How will they become aware of what you have to offer? ? What story are you telling, living, spreading? By answering these 3 questions, a marketer can ensure that their campaign is targeted, effective, and resonates with the worldview of their target audience. Additionally, it's important to consider the fear that may prevent action, the timing of the campaign, and the potential word of mouth impact. So, I mean, that is exactly what I was looking for as I go about my work. I copied and pasted it into a Word doc, and I have it, or a Google Doc, and I have it pinned to the top of my to the work that I do.
Now you combine that with the new deepfake kind of technology with videos and all that, and you could have Seth Godin give you a one-on-one masterclass. Based on that stuff it's powerful, but you have to have that library of information like a Seth Godin has produced, in order to create that. But yeah, that's an amazing ability to do that. So AI's got some stuff. It's definitely there, and I can see what the hubbub is about. But ultimately, you have to have a Seth Godin create that information so that the AI can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, in conclusion, I mean, it's a tool, right? AI, ChatGPT is only going to, or not ChatGPT, I shouldn't say that. Generative AI is a tool, and I think we're just getting started.
Yeah, no, I think when you treat it like a tool and you learn how to use any tool, and it's the same thing with any tool. You learn what works best, what to avoid, how to, for lack of a better word, exploit it and use it to its fullest potential. That's great. And so we'll use it to streamline some processes. Still takes a human. A human is still needed to be involved. It may change some writers' roles from writer to writer/editor of AI generated copy.
Right.
But that's really not much different than a lot of. I've looked. What did you do to write this article? I looked at 5 other articles that were out there to kind of get some ideas. Then I made my own thing. Well, that's kind of what this is. That's what. But except as you're looking at 5 million other articles.
Yeah, I was going to say that's this on steroids.
Yeah,
and that on steroids. So Zapier, who makes a API connection tool that we use a lot to connect cloud software or software as a service entities to others, it's Zapier. They came out with an article just recently. It said, "Don't make these mistakes with AI," and it's pretty much where we got to here. Don't let it work unsupervised. Don't over rely on it as a research tool. And the last one I thought was pretty funny. Don't pretend you're not using it.
Yeah, exactly. I think we can all understand the advantages that it might provide, but it's still. It's going to require humans, so it's not like, hey, we're taking your money because we're just having a computer do it for us. It's not that at all. If it ever gets to that point, I'll eat my hat. I just don't think it's going to happen. Not that like that. So if we are using it, but we're not abusing it. And using it in ways that aren't helpful to our clients. It always goes back to what Google says. If they don't have any penalty for using AI, as long as it's helpful, as long as the content that we're creating and all the stuff that we're doing is helpful, then that's where the proof's in the pudding.